Welcome to AI for You, the go-to podcast for higher ed professionals looking to integrate AI into their daily work. I'm your host, Brian Piper, the Director of Content Strategy and Assessment at the University of Rochester. Join me every other Thursday for practical uses of AI within higher education communications, marketing, and student engagement. We'll focus on ways to quickly integrate AI into your teams to increase your efficiency and effectiveness and help you optimize your workflows and processes. I'll interview experts and feature relevant use cases with the goal that every episode gives you at least one thing you can take away and start leveraging in your job today. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome to AI for You. We are joining you live from the Engage Summit 2025, and we are joined today by Dustin Ramsdell. Dustin, would you like to introduce yourself a little?
Yeah, so I am a higher ed professional, over 10 years experience working in a variety of spaces and places, most of it being in kind of student support, client success, and various content marketing kind of roles. One of the things that's been a through line through all of my jobs is being the founder and host of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast. I've done that for over 7 years, and it's been a great journey doing almost at this point, as we're recording this, almost 300 episodes of folks from, all various kind of parts of the higher ed ecosystem. But just love being able to be here and, record with people here at events like this and just talk about kind of broadly digital transformation, how it's impacting higher ed. Certainly AI is a big part of that nowadays. So, but yeah, it's been just a great way for me to kind of build my knowledge and kind of keep my learning going through a bunch of different jobs and stuff over the years. So appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk AI and all the things that we're kind of seeing and hearing here.
So you've had a lot of conversations with people in higher ed. You've been in the higher ed space a long time. You've seen changes. You've seen new technologies, new programs and tools. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts and perspective on AI in higher ed and some of the challenges and opportunities you're seeing and hearing about.
Yeah, and I think I was very kind of ambivalent about it at first. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I didn't cover it a lot on the podcast kind of when it really kind of made its big splash. And I've now been kind of sprinkling it into a lot of episodes because I feel like it's sort of this catalyst. It's sort of an amplifier. It's something that in and of itself is just sort of, I feel like a mechanism. Because if you were to say oh, we have AI, you'd be like, but what do you mean? So it's the idea of even with Element or other tools, it's something that there's a core functionality. If you bring AI, it can sort of make it, more efficient, more, bring kind of more automation to it, or just make it more, nimble or kind of flexible and all those sort of things. But I think it's an interesting moment because I think there's, with that sort of abstract kind of idea of it, that there are spaces and places and folks like yourself that are kind of helping folks to better understand what it is, how to use it, and kind of help shepherd people through their journeys of AI and everything. But I think it's, we all kind of have our sort of perspectives and journeys with being an early adopter or not with technology and all that. So I think that's playing out here, maybe in more of a condensed timeline. But I am definitely just really excited about that this is kind of the big driver of digital transformation across the entire student life cycle. So what students are kind of interacting with, but even just for faculty and staff and just how they're managing and navigating their workflows and everything. It's, I think, a rare opportunity that, again, it's sort of this catalyst for all parts of sort of the, ed tech ecosystem. So it's been nice to be able to see kind of use cases in a variety of areas versus feeling it's just a new thing that's kind of being used for marketing and enrollment stuff where it's just a lot of them get some new shiny tools pretty often, but it's everybody's sort of interfacing with that, with AI right now. So that's kind of a interesting part for me is that there's always sort of more perspectives to kind of farm on this topic for episodes and stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned the new shiny tools, and we see a lot of that in higher ed. We see a lot of software solutions come and go that don't quite fit the mold or don't quite do what they say they're going to do. And I know that's one of the things that at least initially some institutions were thinking about AI, that, it was kind of a flash in the pan. It was overhyped, which it may have been, but it seems to have been progressing and advancing fairly quickly. There are still a lot of institutions that seem to be reluctant to start engaging, to start integrating. Where do you think the issues are, or what do you think are some of the causes behind that hesitancy? I don't know, in your conversations, if you've had those discussions before with institutions who are waiting to see what happens with this.
Yeah, I think that you can see similar kind of existential crises for higher ed in the past of something like Wikipedia or something where it's oh, we're banning it. We can't, can't even sort of fathom that it could really have a role or a place in kind of the, learning experience for students and stuff. But I think it is that some institutions are probably just trying to wait it out or kind of, see where it kind of settles, which is fine. But I think with the kind of accelerated kind of adoption, students using it nowadays and just sort of proliferation of, again, across kind of the whole ed tech ecosystem, I think you just, at the bare minimum, I think to me, it's you just need to put kind of the guardrails or the policies and sort of create the sandbox for people to kind of play in with these tools. But I think there's just so much going on right now. So I think there may even just be that idea of well, we need to prioritize other things. This is not as important, to air quote here, just not as important, just from their point of view. So they're just sort of, choosing not to act versus being we're going to ban it, or we're going to say that every student, gets ChatGPT, full access or whatever. So that's what I think is interesting, is I think there's probably, as many institutions doing nothing as there are ones that are being really kind of embracing of it, and other ones that are maybe saying we're going to choose to, not have it be a part of it, or we're going to ban its use or, limit it in some way. So it could just be bandwidth and just expertise maybe lacking, I guess, because I think, we're still being in early phases, I guess, of enough people at enough institutions probably feeling confident enough to really be the teachers on their own campus or those sort of things.
Yeah, I think sometimes finding those early adopters can be challenging, and you want to make sure that you're providing people with good information and that you're, making good decisions on the integration side, because we know there are risks if you, don't integrate ethically, responsibly, intelligently. So tell me a little bit about your journey with AI. Where do you use it? How is it helpful for you? Were you an early adopter? You said you were a little hesitant at first to kind of jump in. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, what's been interesting is that I, over the past few years, haven't worked at an organization that fully embraced it. So I've been just on my own solo journey. So I'm sure other folks have kind of been in that kind of place as well. But yeah, I mean, it was sort of a hesitancy, or just sort of I wasn't really sure what to make of it. Cause I think there was a lot of hype and a lot of noise, and sort of seeing that okay, it seems like it's getting a little inflated or a little sort of overblown. Let's see where it settles. And at the very least, I've kind of gotten to a place in terms of a more routine use of using it with my content creation to, help with generating titles or different ideas and options for things like that, which is just helpful for efficiency and to kind of even just have something to play off of versus the sort of, tormented by the blank page kind of thing. And then there's other great tools, because I work with people to do podcast production. Now you can upload something to Adobe Podcast, and it'll just enhance it to remove background noise and make it sound better. And so that's just even something where it's very easy to where whatever's happening on the backside, but you upload the file, it does its magic, and you can kind of toggle okay, I don't want the background noise to be removed entirely, because you record here, there's kind of a nice little ambiance, you're here, but then it could be well, it's overly enhancing it. It maybe sounds a little too, because the idea of you could artificially make things better, and it kind of you can, uncanny valley or something, so that's what I appreciate is they acknowledge that okay, some people are going to need, different levels of those things for each piece that they're uploading. And so that's been a couple of routine ways. I think it's for me, it's it is that idea, and it's probably the case for most people, is that not everyone may be building a custom GPT or doing things like that, but if they can at least use the tools that they're maybe already using, but there's kind of a toggle of well, hey, if you want AI to help you with this, go here, that's available. That's kind of been my journey, is I feel I'm still sort of a very lightly sort of integrating it into my routines, and not even fully kind of looking under the hood and sort of customizing things necessarily. So I think it's just been a very observational learning, through the content conversations I have. I've been trying to do a lot of exploration of kind of other people's use cases and things. So yeah, I think I definitely look forward to continuing to, learn from folks like yourself and other, just kind of as we're continuing to make spaces and places available for folks to just get more exposure to things. It's just it's a time where now I think because a lot of the sort of noise is sort of reduced, we can kind of cut through it a bit and start to kind of get a bit more like tactical, with like, you can use a tool like Element in these ways to do these things, which are empowered by AI, and yeah, it's a nice moment to be in, I think now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said about, the different tools, people who are hesitant to start using AI may not realize that they're already using AI because it's being integrated into every tool that we already use. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And you see every, software development company now starting to tout AI powered, AI enabled, and, you can't find a piece of software out there now that doesn't have AI integrated into it in some way. So a lot of talk here at the event about the future of AI and what we can expect going forward and, what opportunities might be available to us. Where do you think AI is going to go in the next few years? And what are you most excited or nervous about?
I know Element talks a lot about the sort of like agents and having those kind of tailored to different use cases. I think that'll proliferate a lot more, maybe even more nuanced kind of use cases. I'm excited about that. I think there's definitely a worry for me of, there's kind of the sanctity of like the learning experience, like what you're getting in your classes. I worry on a couple of different fronts that faculty won't integrate AI at all, or they'll do it in a sort of a haphazard way. I've seen a few examples with some of the episodes that I've done where I do see some pretty compelling ways to kind of build AI literacy, kind of show your work and how you're sort of like prompting and kind of, going back and forth maybe with, ChatGPT. But I hope that there is more sort of intentional integration in the learning experience, because I think it's either through the lack of it or a haphazard integration that it's just going to be kind of not nurturing the right skills and kind of outcomes that we would hope for students. And like, I think that's what a lot of people worry about. It's like, oh, well, nobody's going to know how to write anymore. Nobody's going to know how to think anymore or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, I think we can like get to a, kind of middle ground or kind of a compromise where it's like, again, that idea of like, if you just had this kind of, the personal assistant to kind of converse with and go back and forth with, like, and we just make it clear, like, we need you to still write this and this is why or whatever else. Because I think that's even some of it where it's just like, the students are just being like told to do things and they don't understand why. Like, you just need sometimes to explain why. So yeah, I think that's one of the pitfalls I kind of worry about, because even just as somebody who's like never been, a faculty member or done a lot of those sort of things, it's just, again, acknowledging that sort of like sanctity and the importance of like, that is half the battle of what students are paying for, is like, they want the exposure and the interaction with the faculty. They want that learning experience to get them, those learning outcomes. So it feels like it's a little bit more clear on the sort of like outside the classroom kind of experience. Like a lot of that is purposely sort of more experiential. Like you're being an RA, you're being an orientation leader, you're being sort of a leader in a club and all that. So like, there's not as much worry in my mind of like potential pitfalls with like that, that you're missing out on certain learning opportunities. So that is my cautionary, tale and warning out there for folks that hopefully they can start thinking through those sort of effective, intentional, and purposeful kind of integrations of AI into the learning experience.
Yeah, and I think the teaching and learning side has kind of an additional level of, an additional obstacle, because it was kind of introduced as a tool to help students cheat. So, having it come from that perspective and the students, having that resistance to it and being like, oh, I don't want to be caught cheating. So I think it's a challenge for a lot of faculty, especially faculty who have been teaching the same way for a long time, to think about how to integrate this new technology in a way that, allows students to take advantage of the functionality and capabilities without sacrificing the critical thinking and the creativity that's so essential at that level. I can't thank you enough for your time and for being on the show. If our listeners want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Very active on LinkedIn, so definitely reach out to me there. And then obviously, I'm posting new episodes of the podcast weekly. It's great to kind of, have folks kind of check out those. And then, yeah, I'm just always out and about at events, so just kind of keep an eye out. Nice to see and meet people that listen to the podcast and that sort of thing. So yeah, just appreciate folks even reaching out if you want to be on an episode. I'm always open to those suggestions as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, and appreciate your insights. Thank you for listening to another episode of AI for You. I hope you found at least one useful thing you can take away and start adding to your workflows and processes today. Remember, the key to making the most of AI is to keep experimenting, keep learning, and of course, keep creating. AI for You is a part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Artis Kadu, Day Kibbles, Shane Baglini, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.